is a popular educator, community organizer, and theologian. Wow. For 20 years, she's been committed to movement building and has actively participated in collective grassroots spaces, particularly in the communities of Washington Heights and South Bronx. So let's give it up for Claudia de la Cruz.
Well, while folks figure out the slide situation, I do want to thank, and I always do, thank the Bolivarian Revolution for its commitment to the South Bronx. It did very much the same thing that they did for the indigenous nations, the tribes that Comrade Nick Estes was talking about. And we had the pleasure of receiving our Comandante Chavez there in 2005. And so just want to extend my gratitude to the Venezuelan people, because it is their effort that allowed us to be able to have heat in the winters. This has been an amazing event. I want to thank the organizers. Shout out to Code Pink. I have the privilege of being a board member, and I'm very honored and privileged to be part of that collective of warriors. Everything that has been touched on by the amazing list of panelists who have presented today brings to mind the words of Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. He spoke these words in 1967 in one of his most important speeches, a speech that is barely ever kind of taught to us in school, and is the Beyond Vietnam speech, when he told us that the United States of America is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world. This country was built on slavery, hostility, dominance, violence, rape, coups, military interventions, dictatorships, unilateral coercive measures or sanctions, blockades. It has been built on the dismemberment of humanity and the planet. That is the foundation of the United States of America. And I refuse to call the United States of America, America, because America is a goddamn continent. I think it's important to raise that the globalization of poverty, misery, suffering, the blood and tears, the underdevelopment of the global South has been the down payment for U.S. imperialism. As the presenters shared in the panel on economy, the economic base, the capitalist system, is a predatory one. Its very nature is to pillage, to extract, to violate. So as we leave this forum, we must be clear that in order to bury 200 years of the Monroe Doctrine, we need to dismantle the very system that has produced and maintained it. And it is good for us to be in solidarity with our comrades all over the world. It is good for us to build international projects. But you know what would be better? Do you know what would be better? What? For the U.S. to take the responsibility of building its own revolution. U.S. imperialism, the global manifestation of U.S. capitalism, is a cancer. It is the most dangerous pandemic to have plagued the planet, one that must be fought and destroyed if we are to save humanity. That is what is at stake. Capitalism needs to use force to sustain itself, and it also needs to spread fears, to lie, and to manipulate. Amongst the many lies that we've been sold, not only in this country but around the world, is that it is easier for the end of the world to arrive than for capitalism to end. And that is the biggest lie that capitalism has sold to us. It has told us that capitalism is eternal, this is the way things are, that at best, all we can do is reform capitalism. We have been told that imperialism cannot be defeated, and that it is only through imperialist wars and interventions that we gain security and stability. The ruling class has consistently worked to terrorize and lie to us into submission and sink us into hopelessness. And all we need to do is look into history to find out that it is possible. It is possible to bring down empires. All empires in history have fallen, but they do not fall on their own volition. They do not fall because they grow a consciousness. They do not grow a consciousness. If we have been listening, we know that the U.S. imperialism has no morals, has no ethics, has no consciousness. Empires fall when the masses of the majority of people, the poor and working class, grow a conscience. When we see ourselves and live in the future, connected to the lives and the future of our sisters and brothers, those who fight imperialism every day, those living in Cuba under a blockade for over 60 years, and building its revolution. Those living in Venezuela, resisting attacks since the conception of its revolution, and deepening its revolution with people's democracy. Fidel Castro said, and I will raise his name wherever I go. Fidel Castro said, there is very little that those who have chained humanity can teach us. Only those who have broken their chains can teach us. We need to look not into Latin America and the Caribbean as a charity case, as something that we just need to give to. People have resisted for 200 years and beyond. People have learned to live and exist with dignity. That is more than the people from the United States can say. We have a lot to learn from Latin America, the Caribbean, and the global South. The Haitian people have had to pay for being the first free black nation in this hemisphere. Very few people remember Haiti. We must remember Haiti. So when we talk about burying 200 years of the Monroe Doctrine, let us remember our responsibility as people living in the belly of the beast. We are the ones to dismantle this monster. We are the ones to bury the corpse of imperialism, because it will not die from age. It will reproduce itself. If we go back to history, we know the levels of crises that capitalism and imperialism had faced, and they always find a way to recreate themselves. The latest project was the neoliberalist project. We are in the crossroads of history. At this very moment, we are in the crossroads of history. There is a geopolitical fight that's being fought. And it is up to us, the people in the United States of America, those of us who are part of the 160 million people who are living in poverty or below the poverty line, to grow a consciousness. Do you know what that consciousness is? My dear friend Marx called it a class consciousness, where we understand ourselves as part of the international community of working class people, where we are able to understand that we have way more in relationship to the global South working class than we do to the government that does not represent us. When we're able to accept that, and we can convincingly share that with others, we are very, very much few steps ahead to be able to build the change that needs to be changed here. We cannot be part of the lie and tell people that there's any reform that could be made within a capitalist system that'll actually take us where we need to go. So if we wanna bury this death machine, We got to study these dead machine, but we must learn from those who have broken their chains. Thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Claudia. Learn from those who have broken their chains. And one of the really beautiful things that we have done here today is weaving in and out and recognizing the connection between our indigenous sisters and brothers throughout the Americas, including here in the United States. And that's why I'm really pleased to introduce Judy Talaugon, who is a Chumash and Filipina land protector from the Santa Ynez Band of Chumash Indians. She is the daughter of farm workers and immigrant leaders who grew up among Mexican and Filipino communities in California. She is a longtime activist. I knew her when she took part in shutting down of the quincentennial celebration of the myth of discovery of Christopher Columbus. And she is an organizer with California Indians for Cultural and Environmental Protection. Her work is based on very clear principles, creating a culture of resistance, standing in solidarity with activists from the entire hemisphere and the world, and building up women-led, indigenous, land-back movements next to and in solidarity with Black, AAPI, and Latinx communities. So thank you so much, Judy, for being with us.
Thank you for welcoming me so lovingly. I have allergies, so I'm struggling. Yes, I will. So, you know, the question is, what is next? Yeah? And so I want to say that I have the beautiful blessing at this time to participate and find the glory of this event in community, that we see each other. You know, we know each other as a collective, as a human collective, in struggle and finding our indoctrination, locating it, and healing. Yeah? So I am in collaboration now to the what is next, and that is 30 research scholars from out of Berkeley, California, out of UC Berkeley, with Professor Moreno, and the Latinx Resource Center. And our curricula is greatly based and framed on abolition. And we are going to reintroduce new characterizations to abuse. But what really brought me back to this, and I think that a lot of us are returning with great, energy to what is next. What really brought me back is Nick Estes and the collective that authored the Red Deal. And that very action, yes, thank you, yes. Melanie Yazzie, I think upwards to over 10 contributors, okay? So that in of itself is an example of what we need to do in the North. Re-educate, recapture our memory, our collective memory as the collective. So one of the things that we've done, I'm going to be very sort of join you into participation today. Do you have a pledge card on you? And if you have, yes. Okay. So in the meanwhile, while they're pledging, I'm going to tell that story. So every Friday, we're getting ready to host a People's Tribunal, greatly influenced by the work that we did in '92, because we hosted a People's Tribunal holding the United States on trial for crimes against humanity. Greatly to do with the agenda today. What grew out of today, I will just assert that now with my Dramamine, is that I was able to pencil in a date in February with Nicaragua, okay, to get our scholarship in line with what they're about to do down there, with the return of land to the African indigenous communities, the matriarchy, and we are doing that here, rematriating land. why not begin to expand that knowledge and that experience in the North? That is the driving theme, is that we need to really educate the North. We have no participation in the oppression in the South. Our participation is as indoctrinated, US citizens or residents of this particular North. Again, it was the border violence that brought me forth, and witnessing at the border and knowing that the wildfire that can be created by us who reside in the North, who are tribally associated, who have that, quote unquote, all of these sort of important things to Americans: recognition, federal, status, enrollment, but the blood quantum, those things have never been of any real true consequence to us because we're still here. And if they had, we would have joined, certain extermination. So let's get that card. Here we go. I would love to hear us read this together, starting with I will do pledge card, and then let's say, there you go. Pledge to resist imperialist policies, to undermine peace in America, knowing that injustices continue to be perpetuated. I commit to organizing people power in order to stop militarization, extraction, forms of colonial domination.
In so doing, I pledge to create inclusive forms of solidarity towards our common goal of peace in the hemisphere.
Thank you so much. And as we wrap up here, I want to bring forward two women who've been working nonstop for a long time now. Where is Michelle Elder and Samantha Weary? Samantha, come up front. And Olivia, you should come up too.
Hi, everyone, and thanks for everyone who has stayed throughout this whole day. It's been such an amazing experience to be here sharing with all of you and to be learning from so many great thinkers who joined us today. And I just want to recognize the work that, not just me and Michelle put into this forum, but all the endorsing organizations, the steering committee, Greg, Oscar. There are so many amazing people that have contributed to making this policy forum what it is and what it has become. So yeah, and of course Michelle has done such an amazing work. She created the website and just all the little details and everything. And of course, Angela and Fred, who also created the program and brought so many amazing ideas to the floor and made it so that it would be a more inclusive forum. So I just want to give a special shout out to everyone who
And these wonderful women have an idea that this is the beginning of other types of gatherings like this. And since this was done in such a communal way, we are looking for other organizations that will come forward and say, we want to do something, whether it's bringing in all these issues or more specific, and then we want to all get behind that group and work with them, and it could be anywhere in this country. So we look forward to talking to you about the next forum and the next forum so that we keep going on. And of course, there's many, many other ways that we want to keep working together. We want to make sure that we have a way to work with each of the groups in their what they're working on. And just to even recognize that today there's people who are at a protest around Bukele in El Salvador. Yeah. There's our wonderful sisters who have been working for freedom for Pedro Castillo in Peru and for back to constitutional rule. We have fabulous people who have been working to get Cuba off the state sponsor of terrorism list. We have people who want to free Alex Saab and get the sanctions on Venezuela lifted and the $3 billion that belongs to the Venezuelan people back to the Venezuelan people that's being held, stolen from them. We've talked about so many wonderful issues. We also want to make sure you know that when you talk about the Americas, you have to talk about culture, because there's so much inspiring, wonderful culture throughout the Americas. And that's why it's important that we gather together this evening at Busboys and Poets to hear from our cultural artists. And that is at the 14th and V, Busboys and Poets, this evening, starting at 7 p.m.
Go from here.
We're going to go from here. And we also want to recognize that while we've been learning from these great panelists and speakers, we've also been watching the beautiful art that's been created by our friend Lulo here. So stand up, Lulo, so we can recognize you. And please don't leave without taking a look at this wonderful artistic rendition of what we've been talking about today. Yes. Decolonize. It's even got the Malvinas in there for anybody who... So we've got, we also want to say that there is a rally for Julian Assange that's happening on World Press Freedom Day. That's on Wednesday, May 3rd, 12 to 2 at the Department of Justice, and we'll march to the National Press Club. And of course, there is the event happening this evening of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. If anyone wants to go by there and join the people who will be blockading outside, calling for real movement on the climate crisis.
Thank you.
So we've had a wonderful, wonderful time together today. And I've heard people mention twice already how under Hugo Chavez, there were these programs that brought not only heating oil, but really solidarity, north-south, south-north. And so I want to end just by remembering a time that I was in Venezuela when Hugo Chavez was addressing this mass auditorium of people, and he got them all fired up against the empire. Some of you might remember when he went to the United Nations and he talked about George Bush smelling like sulfur. He was the devil. So he was talking about George Bush and the devil and those devils up in the north. And here we were, a group of people from the north that were sitting right there, and we started feeling like, oh, you know, let's kind of be invisible here. And he points to us. And he says, but here are the people of Martin Luther King. And when we liberate ourselves from this empire, from the south, that we're going to fight to liberate ourselves, and we are working together with the people in the north who are trying to liberate themselves, we will be liberated in the global south, and we will liberate the people of Martin Luther King. So get up, and he acknowledged all of us, and we all had a great clap to understand that this liberation is coming up from the south, but it's boiling inside the empire right here in the entrañas del imperio in Washington, D.C. So we have so much global solidarity. I've been working on on Ukraine, and every time I get really depressed about the war, I start reading about Latin America. So it's inspiring, it's wonderful. We know a lot of you have roots in Latin America, and we thank you so much for carrying those roots here with you today. And as we move forward, let us move forward. Giving donations. Because this took a lot of money to put on, we will have donation baskets as you leave or up here as well, if you can put something into there. And we would like your photos. Oh, a group photo. And we have one more important person to thank here. Don't move, Tigberry. We want to thank Tig for all the work in putting the logistics of this together for the last few days, working so hard. And we're going to do, where are we going to do the group photo? Yeah. So we're going to do a group photo here, right over here. And we're going to organize this with the tall people in the back, so we know that that includes Nick Estes and Greg and Leo, tall people in the back, shorter ones in front. But let's give one more applause to everybody who worked so hard to make this day possible. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El pueblo unido jamás será vencido. El people united will never be defeated. The people united will never be defeated. Ni un paso atrás.
Venceremos.
Venceremos, pero varios pasos adelante.